Roger, alcoholic? I've been sober since October 11th, 1978. What was the topic tonight?
2 words.
Best outcomes. Have no idea what the hell that was about. They just call me and say, give us a title, and I just make something up. But I was thinking about it. Best outcomes sounds like a corporate thing. These are the best practices. So what is the outcome? What is the outcome I'm looking for? The outcome is spiritual awakening. That's the outcome. Everything between where I sit now and that is part of the process, right? We might get some promises. We might get some relief. We might do some amends. A little regret, some remorse comes off. Ultimately, though, it's freedom, isn't it? It's freedom from what? It starts out freedom from the substance, right? Alcohol, drugs. But very quickly, and everyone in this room knows this, 30 days on out, and very quickly, it becomes apparent, or it will become apparent to you, there's something else going on here besides the drinking, besides the drugs, right? Because I've stopped that. And if that was really the problem, we'd be fine, wouldn't we? If you and I really had a drinking problem, not drinking would be the solution. Right? Just don't do that anymore. Got it. Right? And then I find out I can't not do it anymore. And I don't know what that's about. So, best outcomes. Freedom from the substance? Yes. How about freedom from fear? How about freedom from shame? How about freedom from self-pity? How about freedom from guilt? How about freedom from regret? How about freedom of, I don't care what you're thinking anymore? What is that? Freedom of what other people are thinking? Yeah. Right? Freedom. I mean, really free. Ultimately, free of the shame, guilt, remorse, regret. Free of the dishonesty. Dishonesty was a principle that I built my whole life on before I got sober. You can't have addiction and have honesty. Sorry. It doesn't work that way, does it? Right? Dishonesty feeds the illness and honesty feeds the recovery. Best outcomes. You know, in Silkworth, in his thing, he said, you know, he was kind of easing us into it. He goes, I think you have an allergy. You know, you might want to leave that stuff alone because you're kind of allergic. And then he says, you know, you're goofy. Your head's goofy. And he says, we need to do something about that. And later on in the chapter, he says, you need a complete psychic change. That's like a new frickin' mind, right? I mean, that's a little staggering, isn't it? I mean, that to just slap you in the face with that right out of the gate. Just like, and by the way, you know, I had to look up psychic. I had to look up complete. You know, how complete are we talking about here? You know, like honest. How honest do you want to be? Ugh. So, we start down the road, right? And we hear things like, half measures availed us nothing. We hear things like, abandon yourself to God as you understand God. We hear things like, oh, this was my favorite. When you're new, sitting in a meeting, and you have no idea what's going on, and some guy gets up and talks for 45 minutes, and, you know, he's barely alive, and well, if you want what we have, and you're willing to go to any length to get it, you're ready to take certain steps, yeah, right? Really? Really? And what is it you have that I'm supposed to want so desperately, right? I don't know. But when I read those things, I read them as absolutes. And I can't get in the game. We go back to the spiritual experience appendix. It talks about willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness as being indispensable for my recovery. That's all it says. I put 100% in front of each one of those things, which disqualified me from getting in the game, right? So they say half-assed and it won't work. So it will result in absolutely nothing. And I guess I'm not saying it works. It won't produce that. It won't produce the awakening, but it will produce something. And I want to talk a little bit about that, about half measures. Before I do, I'm going to read you some Emmett. This is the thing that was in my daily reading yesterday. You read Emmett, don't you? Yeah, you saw it. Regeneration means building a new mentality. That is, creating a new soul in place of your present one. That's kind of like Silkworth. You need a complete psychic change. You need a whole different moral grounding. You need a whole different set of beliefs. We know what you need. We just don't know how to produce it. Okay? Means does not mean merely improving your present self. It means producing through the power of God, the Creator, your higher power, higher principles, whatever your conception is, a new self. I do that in conjunction with the power. The power can't do it without our permission, right? This is how I give it my permission with the steps. I acquiesce my thinking to a new order of things slowly over time. If you do this, everything else in your life will rapidly change for the better. Other people will become much more friendly to you because your soul will be filled with peace. You'll radiate peace, and other people will get it intuitively. Everybody likes peace and harmony, and they're attracted to any source from which it comes. Naturally, you can't radiate peace if you don't have it first in your own possession. You can't radiate anything from the outside. To radiate any quality, that quality must be within yourself. True peace of mind is the shortcut to regeneration, the Master said. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. So this idea is all over the place. I need a new me. It's not I just need to think differently about drinking or drugs or lying. I need to think differently about everything. But I am not on board for that. I can, you know, the thing about radiating, we all know this. We all experience it. When you walk into a room and you meet someone, you go, ooh. That's a weird vibe. That's the radiating. What are you radiating? I'm radiating my pain. What a grouch, right? Radiating my pain. That's what I'm radiating. I'm radiating, stay away from me. Don't come any closer. Do you get what I'm saying? Everybody has this experience. When you meet people, you size them up. Not intentionally, just intuitively. I like the way that guy feels. Don't like the way that guy feels. I like the way she feels. Don't like the way she feels. I feel comfortable here. I don't feel comfortable here. That's what we're talking about, right? So you can't come back from somewhere you haven't been. So that's why talking this doesn't work. That's why memorizing all the stuff Bill wrote in the 12 and 12 so you can sound really good at the step meeting doesn't cut it. Aiden's here. I don't want to swear. Is he gone? Okay. Is he gone? Yeah. Okay. It doesn't cut shit. Just say it. Right? It doesn't. And we've all done it, haven't we? I thought the accruing of this information would change me. It doesn't change you. What it does do is it amplifies the hypocrisy. But it doesn't change you. The only thing that changes you and me is action. Action based on a different set of ideas, right? Okay. So here's what I want to say. I just don't know exactly how to say this. But I was a half measures guy. I was a half measures guy with a really crappy attitude. Now, I'm not making fun of it, kind of I am. But the point is, the book says you got to abandon yourself to it. That's an ideal. The book also says in the 4th step, you got to be thorough and honest. Well, you know what? I can only be as thorough and as honest as I am in that moment. Do you know what I'm saying? I get here, I'm mentally ill. I'm all screwed up. I've detoxed. I got no idea how any of this works. I walk into these rooms and everything sounds like code, you know? They're talking to each other. It's a 6 and 7. Well, you need to do a 3 on that. You know, I'm going, where's the playbook? What? I don't know what you're talking about. It doesn't make any sense. And then when I correlate what you're talking about with those steps, it still doesn't make any sense. Because I don't really know what they mean. I know what it says, but I don't know what it means. When you read it, I'm powerless over alcohol, my life's unmanageable. Hello. You're a family member, I'm powerless over my thinking, powerless over alcohol, my life's unmanageable, right? Nice idea. And I can even go, yeah, but I don't know what that means. And when I drill down into that, I find out, I start understanding what it means. It means no matter what I do and no matter how I do it, I can't produce a satisfying experience. And even prior to that, I can't produce an experience, my life, that doesn't require me to anesthetize myself. Because I don't know. I don't know how much pain I'm in. Because I've been that way my whole life. This did not start with drinking. It started when we were little boys and little girls. Who's got kids here? Who knows someone with kids? Let me ask you this. Who's observed babies? Okay, fine. You with me? When you watch 2 infants together, they share everything. They feed each other, they share toys, they do all this crap. I mean, it's just like there is no you and me. There's just us. Just one big happy family, right? Hope someone changes me soon. Right? That's the big problem, is change me and feed me, That's the equivalent of I lost my debit card on the golf course, right?
They might have.
Yeah. So what happens? In that 9 to 12 months, the ego comes online. And dualism is introduced. Yours, mine, up, down, bad, right, wrong, right? And you start hearing the kids, when you put them together to play, they go, mine. And they're yanking stuff away from each other. Mine. and it begins. And then we learn stuff as we go along. And most of the stuff we learn, well, I don't know about you, but I think I learned a lot of stuff that wasn't being taught. Do you know what I'm saying? I think life threw some stuff at me, and I made up a story about it. I'm like 6 years old, 8 years old. I made up a story about it, and the story is what? The story is how to keep me safe. I don't know I could possibly be wrong. I have no language skills. I have no context. I have nothing. But stuff is happening. And it scares the shit out of me. And I'm trying to figure out how to be safe. That's all. And that's the birthplace of what we call defects and flaws in our character. I got a bunch of mistaken ideas, and I built a fortress out of them. I decided along the way, this is how it works. Messages. You got messages. Kids are great observers, lousy interpreters. Right? So, here's a message. The men in here will probably recognize this. Or some version of it. Down in the shop with my dad, and I smashed my thumb with a hammer. My little fingernails standing up and blood's flying everywhere, and I'm crying. I am screaming. I think I'm around 8 years old. And I'm just screaming. And he looks at me and he goes, "You're bawling like a little girl." I'm still screaming. And after a period of time, he stomped my foot. And then I went, "Oh, whoa." He said, "See, your thumb doesn't hurt. That pain, that's in your mind." And the message I got was, men don't feel. You don't ever show you got hurt. Don't ever show that pain. Anyone else get that message besides me? Men don't. Women don't. You get that message too, right? Stuff like that. There wasn't 1 or 2 of those. There was a lot of those. And they became the formation. They became how to get through the world. What's the first drug? The first drug was approval, was it not? And the first drug dealer was mom and dad. How do I get their approval? And I can't get their approval. I can't get enough of it because I got this thing I need more, whatever it is. Because I think the solution's out here. Already I'm externally referred. Will you tell me I'm good enough? Will you tell me I'm desirable enough? Will you tell me I've achieved enough to get an attaboy, to get an award? I don't want third place. I want first place, right? And so then you go to school and they start measuring you. You go to gym and they say, oh, you're the slowest kid in the class. That's an esteem builder, right? It's just life. But I have a really weird approach to this because I grew up with people that didn't have this reaction to life at all. They just kind of bounced through it. My adolescence lasted till I was about 45. You know, it was just, God, I just could not grow up or would not. So here's where I'm going with this half measures thing. In my early sobriety, that would be the first couple, 3 years, people were asking me on occasion, how are you staying sober? Because I wasn't doing anything they were doing. And I'd go, I have not a clue. I am clueless, right? Here's the story I made up about this. It says that I have to be searching and thorough. It says that I have to be honest. But with the mentality that I came in with, that was a very low bar. And I think that the fact that I was honest about where I was at imbued me with some grace. And it was hard to get grace when you don't believe in the Creator. Sorry. But that's what it was in retrospect, you know. Why was I staying sober when other people were doing much more than I was and they weren't staying sober? And I was sitting here with my crotchety attitude and my closed mind. And I was about a 5% guy. You know, I'll go to your stupid meetings. You know, I like your meetings. You don't even have to tell them your name. Make something up. I'm Scott. No one's looking for me in the meeting, and I'm good, right? But I think that 5% that I brought to the table was 100% of what I was capable of. Do you know what I'm saying? And that did not blow the promises up for me. What it did was it allowed me to stay alive and suffer long enough to get to the next level of willingness. Do you know what I'm saying? And honesty was the same way. I didn't have an open mind. I had a closed mind. The Spiritual Experience Appendix says, most emphatically we wish to say that any alcoholic capable of facing our problems in the light of our experience, their problems in the light of our experience, can recover. That's the wholesale promise of Alcoholics Anonymous. And then there's conditions. Provided you don't close your mind to all spiritual concepts, meaning that the minimum requirement is agnosticism. And then it says, the only thing that can defeat you and me, the only thing is our attitude. And if our approach is intolerant or belligerent, closed-minded, you're not going to make it. And so that intolerance and that closed-mindedness and that belligerence and the defiance that I had to be slowly beaten out of me. You didn't beat it out of me. My experience beat it out of me. Do you know what I'm saying? I just got exhausted doing my game. Now, you don't have to do it this way. But this is a product of self-sponsorship. You should know. You know, you hear cute little things that about, if you have yourself for a sponsor, you have a fool. You know, you have an insane person. Yeah. But I don't trust anyone. And I'm sure as hell not going to acquiesce to some guy I hardly know and his guidance. No, sir. So I got to figure this out. And it's really painful. It's not a good way to do it when you're living through it. Later on, when you start working with other alcoholics, it becomes really important, valuable. Because that thing I radiate draws those guys to me. And the guys that are drawn to me are troubled guys. They're troubled guys with troubled pasts and troubled presents and a lot of problems, right? Those are the guys that come to me. So now I know why I got sober the way I did. Because God, the Creator, or those principles, those higher principles, were shaping me into a very unique tool for a bunch of guys I was going to meet in 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 35 years. And those are the guys I work with. They're the only ones that ever come to me. Right? They are. It's not like, couldn't I get a banker? You know, couldn't I get someone who's doing okay except for a little drinking problem? No, I got a double felon. I got a guy on paper. I got a guy in the witness protection program. You know. Well, at least you're not drinking. Now, could you stop killing people? It's progress. It's progress. You know what I'm saying, though? There's an idea here of a power greater than ourselves. There's an idea here called grace, which is a fancy word for unmerited gift. And there's another word, mercy, which is about not getting what I really deserve. When I go out to Stillwater Prison and work with those guys, and a number of those guys, a lot of those guys, are never ever going to breathe free air. And when I poll that group, 100, 120 guys, and I ask how many people committed their crime under the influence of or to get money for drugs or alcohol, every single hand goes up. And I look at them, and I think the only difference between them and me is they got caught. Why is that? Why is that? Why did I drive drunk every day for about a dozen years and never get a DWI? Never had an accident. Should I tell him?
Yeah.
Okay. I had a van that I would neatly park in the backyard when I got home, right? And the van had scrapes down both sides and a bumper like this and mirror hanging off the side and a cracked windshield. I'd never had an accident. I'd come out in the morning and go, shit, somebody hit my truck again. Right? I had problems with turns. Had a big light pole right at the end of the alley, my alley. God, those are horrible. Especially when you're seeing 2 or 3 of them. It's like, which one's the real one? And then the other one was mailboxes. The reason Minneapolis has mailboxes on those cement pedestals is me. I killed a lot of mailboxes in my day, right? It's just ridiculous. So why am I here? Why me? And why, you know, before these things, I always walked the sidewalk up there. There's a lot of memorial bricks. Daughters, sons, fathers, family members who didn't make it. They died. It's so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. Go to funerals. Go to a lot of funerals. And these guys are young. Mid-30s down. Just couldn't make the turn. It was so doable. Why? Because they wouldn't listen. Because they couldn't change their thinking. Because they couldn't open their mind, or wouldn't. You know, there's a point at which you just go beyond, and you can't get back, apparently, you know? But the ability to be able to listen to another alcoholic or Al-Anon or narcotics addict tell you their story, and the ability to say, yeah, me too. That's the beginning of the crack. Me too. It's identification, right? I'm going to take you through the doctor's opinion. I'm going to take you through Bill's story. I'm going to take you through There's a Solution. I'm going to take you through more about alcoholism. I'm going to take you through We Agnostics. And you're going to understand what AA means by the first 2 steps. And you're the only one that can decide if that's true for you. Powerless over alcohol? Yeah. Powerless to manage your life? Apparently. I mean, is this the life you know? No. Is that the life? No. Okay. That's all you got to know. Doesn't mean you have to lose everything. It means that at the end of the day, when I get done running my life, how satisfied am I with the product? And on a 1 to 10, I'm living in a onesie, twosie range, right? And all this is saying is, would you like to jack that number up? Can you imagine a 6 or 7? No, I can't, frankly. No. Because I don't think it's possible. Got this thing. We don't talk about it in AA much, and it's not in the book. It's shame. Shame. That little voice, that feeling that says, I'm unlovable. I'm broken. I'm dirty. Irredeemable. Incomplete. Those are all shadows of that idea. The fundamental idea is I'm unlovable, and that's why all this is happening to me. I have that from the time I was a wee lad. And so when I come into AA, I have been walking through my whole life feeling less than, feeling broken, and just hoping upon hope that you didn't find out what a phony I was, right? Had it looking pretty good on the outside, inside dying. But it looked pretty good on the outside. And I'm desperately trying to make sure you don't find out what's on the inside. So I get to AA, and they say, well, we got this little step here. We're powerless. And I freak. This isn't happening consciously. This is not an intellectual exercise. I'm confronted with admission, which means to allow in, here's a new idea. Maybe you're not just a big jerk. Cleaned it up. Maybe you're not just maybe a big jerk and a rascal and a naughty boy. How am I doing? Some of you guys know me. I'm doing pretty good for me. Huh? Maybe there's something else going on. And it's that shame piece. And so I come in here and I'm confronted with admitting, it just means allow in. To allow in an idea, maybe you're powerless. That's one thing. To declare it is a whole nother thing. You guys are going around the room. I'm an alcoholic. My name's Rand, right? I can't do that. I can't do that. Because to admit that confirms the shame. Do you get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So now I've gone full circle and I'm up against this thing and I'm sitting in AA and it's the only damn solution I have for what's killing me and I can't reach out for it because of this thing I don't know I have, shame. Because to reach out to admit it is to confirm my deepest, darkest fear, there is something wrong with me. Really wrong with me. So wrong with me, I'm at A&A. Jeez. It's come to this, right? It's come to this. So we have to bang through those ideas to the best of our ability. So do I know? Am I honest? I'm as honest as I can be. Am I willing? I'm as willing as I can be. Am I open? I'm as open as I can be, which isn't much. But I'm willing to go to your stupid meetings. There's some open. There's some willing. Right? I mean, I know it's minuscule. I know it's like, that's not what we're talking about. But that's what my experience was. So slowly, I'm banging through this thing. I think, you know, you talk about, people talk about the big book being divinely inspired and the steps being divinely inspired. And you know the story about Bill writing the steps, the night he wrote the steps, and he was all bent out of shape because he was coming up with some other steps to fill in the loopholes, yeah. Right? And he got frustrated, he just gave up, and he said a prayer, and all of a sudden, they just came out. Now, you and I know this. There's no one in this room, a couple, 3 years sober, that could have written that. I can't even pay the electric bill. You know what I'm saying? Let alone write that or the book. Now here's something I've found within this that I think it is divine in nature, and I think that it is what saved my life. There's all kinds of drunk traps built into these steps for guys like me that aren't thorough, that aren't honest. So to the best of my ability, I've embraced I'm powerless and I can't manage my life. Then there's a whole nother war over the higher power idea. And I read it wrong. I read the second step. I read the words, but what I heard in my head was, you'll now believe in God. It doesn't say that. It says, came to believe what? That there was a power and it could restore me to sanity, which another word for sanity is wholeness. That's all it says. So the question for step 2 isn't, do you believe in God? Or even what do you believe in? It is, are you willing to believe in the possibility that that power exists? Part of where the willingness comes from is observing you in the fellowship. Find out there are some people that are really doing this. Fine. So then I make a decision. Big deal. Turning my will and my life, my thinking and my actions over the care of the power as I conceive it. And I heard stuff in AA, and I love it. I love these guys that they came into a meeting, they met their sponsor, Harold, and they've been with him for 40 years, never had another drink. And let me tell you about the third step. We were in the kitchen on our knees with a candle between us, holding hands. I want you to know something, I don't hold hands with men. And we said that third step prayer, and my head exploded, the room filled up with light, and my life took a right turn, and I never looked back. And I go, God, that's great. Good for you. But if I have the expectation that that's what's supposed to happen, I'm never going to make the turn. And so I've thought about this. When did I do my third step? Because I sure wasn't doing it with another human being. I'm still sponsoring myself. This is what my third step was. I'm sitting in a meeting, and I was looking at the book, and I remember hearing myself say this, I think I'm just going to go for it. That's my third step. I think I'm going to go for it. So now I'm doing a fourth step. Thorough and honest. Not, right? Who knows if I've done the first 3 steps? Who knows if Stacya's done the first 3 steps? Only she knows. Only Dave knows, only Roger knows, only Susan knows, only Claudia knows, only Chris knows. No one knows. And even if you get a sponsor, you can bullshit that. You got a counselor, a therapist, they're even easier, right? Damn it, didn't I show you my essay on step 1? Whoa. Clearly, I have a grounded understanding. I don't have shit. Anyway, the point is, I don't know if I have or I haven't. There's something, once you get to that third step and how it works, they tell you what they mean by it. They tell you how they did it. They give you that actor analogy to see if you can identify with being a controlling narcissistic asshole. Thank you, Flo. See, Aiden, I didn't have to violate the rule. Flo did it for me. No, but that's the truth, isn't it? Do you see how you've been playing God? That's what that whole thing is about. And at the end of the day, when you get done playing God and doing your routine, are you a producer of harmony or dissonance? And everyone in my life is affected negatively by my routines. That's all it wants me to see. So, okay, fine. So I do this fourth step. Not very thorough. Just thorough as I can do it. But I tell you, I read ahead. They want you to talk to someone. I am not putting all my stuff on the table. Are you? No, not. So I do a fourth step. It's pretty credible. After I did 2 oral ones that didn't work too well, which were also full of me making up stories about stuff I heard other places, right? So I finally did one in writing. My great fear there was that's admissible in a court of law. So I got this pieces of paper. I looked at my resentment, my fears, and my sex conduct, the way a guy that's insane can. Not very insightful, but I got some stuff scratched off, and now I got to go talk to someone. There's some stuff I'm not putting on there because that's the I'm taking to the grave stuff, right? You don't need to know all that, right? And then I'm going to, a lot of times this fifth step is with your sponsor, right? And I don't know, maybe you're different, but I don't know this guy that well. And I'm not sure that I'm going to lay it all out for him, right? And then if you got a really astute person doing your fifth step, at the end they'll say, so, what is it you're taking to the grave, Sid?
Everything.
Everything, right. And that's that place where your face goes white and you start sweating and you're at a point of decision. Am I going to tell him or not? I'm going to tell him or not. Let's say I tell him half of it. Because I want to see what they're going to do with it. Let's say I don't do it at all. I don't tell them. I say, no, we're good. So then they say, consider 6 and 7. 6 and 7 is a trap for me not being honest in 5 and 4. And 6 and 7's got a ball buster in there. Spherical deflator. Whatever. I didn't say I was all here. So what happens in 6 and 7? They ask, have you been thorough? Well, no. But I've been as thorough as I can be. Have you been thorough? Have you left anything out? If I could answer that truly, I could see the flaw. And maybe I could say, yeah, well, I did leave some stuff out. That stuff I'm not going to tell the guy in the fifth step. Well, then here's the trap. In 6 and 7, it says, just wondering, is there something you still cling to? I know it's a stretch. Well, it says, is there something you still cling to? Well, yeah, the stuff I wouldn't tell the guy. The stuff I don't want him to know. The stuff about the money, the stuff about the sex, yeah. There's some things I'd still like to control. Okay, I got an opportunity now. This is without any public display. This is just me and me with the truth. Yeah, I still cling to this. Okay, then it says pray about it. You're done. Move on. So I got 8 and 9. Really worked hard to get to 9, didn't you? How long did it take to get to the 9th step? I know you guys are all on the fast track. 20 minutes, whatever. No. Well, we work our way through these ideas, and then we have a list of people that we owe amends to, people we've harmed. And the idea is that we're going to have some insight by that point, and the book talks about a bunch of different approaches, and then it says seek counsel before you go do this. So they're trying to get me to slow way down and just start knocking this off one thing at a time. That it says, that's where the promises are. I never liked the promises. Did you? Oh, shut up. When you were new, okay, this is quite possible that I'm a minority here. When I was new and I heard the promises, that was not hopeful. I know some people hear the promises and go, oh, the promises, oh God, the promises. I can't wait to get to the promises. Am I there? Almost there? Promises, I need promises, right? That was not for me. When I heard the promises, I thought unreachable, undoable, unimaginable, just dream, airy-fairy, Hallmark card stuff, right? Because it was just totally beyond my conception. But it says there's a qualifier there before the promises. It says, if we're meticulous. Is it meticulous? Painstaking, thank you. If we're painstaking about this phase of our development, we'll be amazed before we're halfway through. Painstaking, meticulous, deliberate, detailed, that's the qualifier. And so when I don't have that foundational stuff and I get to those amends, I'm looking around going, hey, where's mine? I think I got gypped. Where are my promises? That thought that they'll always materialize brings me to this thought, which is 10. Continue to take a personal inventory, and when you're wrong, promptly admit it. This is the ultimate drunk trap for me.
Admit you're wrong? Must
I
be
know.
kidding.
I know. So here's the deal. I did this in the way I did it. And when I got to 10, for a totally unknown reason to me, I did it precisely the way it said. And I did nothing previous to that like I was supposed to do it. I had little notebooks. What do you do when you're pissed off? Oh. And I was really doing it. So here's the ultimate trap. I have not been thorough here in the first 9. I've been as thorough as I could. I've not been honest, but I've been as honest as I could. Because nothing can happen unless you get in the game. And if you're going to get in the game, you're going to make mistakes. It's going to be messy. It's not going to be like, whoo, you know, Bill's rocket into the 4th dimension. I had a hot air balloon experience. Up, down, blowing around. You know what I'm saying? Whatever, but I had an experience. So let's just, I know it's a stretch, but let's just imagine for a minute Roger lied. Oh, I know. So when you're new and you're doing this, you will, I don't know about you, I only recognize it after the fact. Mm-hmm. I'm having this conversation with Chris, and we're talking about working out, right? And it's about 5 minutes, and I tell him my thing, and he tells me his thing. And I walk away and go, you just lied, man. You just made all that up. I'm not going to tell him that, but it comes to me after the fact, okay? So here's the trap. It says, continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear when they crop up, which is a big promise we don't talk about. They're going to crop up because I'm human, and I'm going to have misinterpretations of what's going on around me, perceptions of being hurt or threatened. I'm going to react poorly, and voila. So here it is. I've lied. In principle, I just inventoried. 4-step principle. Why did I do that? Because I made a decision in the 3rd step to go for it. Why did I do that? Because in the 2nd step, I came to believe that I got to find a power. And why did I do that? Because I'm powerless. That's the problem. The problem isn't that I can't stop drinking. I have stopped drinking. I am powerless. So just by grabbing the defect, in principle, I've done the first 4 steps. Then what does it say? Ask God to remove it. There's 6 and 7. It says talk to someone immediately. There's 5. Making amends if necessary. There's 8 and 9. And resolutely turn your thinking to someone you can help. There's 12. Drunk trap. My experience is if you do that, it will peel you. You'll get more honest. And what happens is over time, I remember more from my past. Shame would say, what's the matter with you? How come you're only figuring that out now? But the truth is, I can't know this stuff before it's time to know it. I can only be as ready as I am. You know what I'm saying? I can only be as ready as I am. So if you're worried about doing it perfectly, you'll never do it. And then shame says you can't make a mistake. That's another problem, right? Because you're going to make a mistake. That's the whole point. When do you learn? When do you learn? You learn when you fall down. You learn when you make mistakes. When you hit that groovy place where everything's going fine for 20 minutes. No. Yeah. No, but you know, as you're building this new way of living, you'll turn in a couple good days and go, God, I had a couple good days. And then pretty soon I had a good week. And then it was I had a good month. And then it's, and I screwed up. And then I got back. And then it's been like, slowly over time, I convert. I convert my principles. Instead of fear, I'm practicing faith. Instead of my judgmentalism, I'm being tolerant. I'm practicing compassion, empathy, understanding, right? And that's regenerating my soul, my spirit. When we go back to the babies, none of us were born screwed up. Sorry. None of us came out of the womb going, keep me away from the Mexicans. Keep me away from the Hispanics. And I don't like black people either. Give me a good Norwegian. There was no prejudice. There was no nothing. You've seen babies. They're a perfectly clean slate. You are too. Part of what this process is is it takes me back to who I always have been. You can't recognize the truth if it's not in you. When I tell you something and it's honest and you feel it, you can't recognize that honesty unless it's in you. Do you know what I'm saying? When we talk about manipulation, you can't recognize that unless it's in you. Right? We talk about deception, we all, dishonesty, deception, manipulation, then we start talking about honesty, owning my stuff. Right? How's this for a definition of honesty? The absence of any intention to deceive. Oh, God. I'll never be able to interact with another human being the rest of my life. There's a caveat to that. Honesty without compassion is brutality. That's just for me. I'm not giving it to you for you. I'm just saying I need things like that to keep me right. Because if you give me any wiggle room, I'll wiggle. I'm a guy who grew up living in the gray area. Dishonesty was a big deal, but most of it was omission, not commission. Because I'm smart enough to answer your question, but not give you the truth. You didn't ask the right question. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. You been drinking? Nope. You smell like booze? Well, I'm not drinking. You're walking funny. You got a blister. You know. Slurring. I lost the goddamn filling. Will you get off my back? Right? She asked me, have you been drinking? The rest of that is, if I was drinking, I wouldn't be home. I'd be out drinking.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't you? I mean, you don't drink, kind of. You either drink or you don't. Let them drink for a day. Oh, of course. If she would have said, have you been sipping? Well, that would have been a totally different answer. Because in my world, sipping's not drinking. It's just maintenance. Well, it is, isn't it? That's why I have a boot flask. That's why I have a pint in my guitar case. I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know when you might need your medicine. That's all I'm saying. And it's kind of, even if you're not drinking it all the time, it's really nice to know it's there, isn't it? Isn't it? When I get off work, I know it's there, that nice 80-degree bottle of vodka under the seat. Oh, baby, I cannot wait, right? So my point is, get in the goddamn... Is he gone? Or is he asleep? What? Oh, God, he's beamed up. Get in the game. You can't have any of this recovery stuff happen if you're not in the game. And when you think about the times you struggled, those are the times you were learning the most. When it's all groovy and everything's going fine, I'm not learning anything. I'm enjoying it. I'm catching my breath. But my experience has been, it's coming, because that's life. This isn't an anecdote for life. This is a way to deal with life as it presents, whether it's extremely positive or extremely negative. This is a way to have an emotional and a spiritual equilibrium that I can get through anything. Because I'm no longer defined by this. I'm no longer defined by the money, your opinion of me, what people are thinking, what's on my business card. I'm just not there anymore. I don't care that I drive a 10-year-old car. It's paid for. I'm just saying. And it gets me where I need to go, kind of thing. Instead of wondering about my ugly car in front of all these pretty cars in the parking lot around it. Whatever. You know what I'm saying. Get in the game. Also, the shortcut, if you want a shortcut, get a sponsor. Just saying. It's much easier. Much easier, right? But I got to be able to choose that person wisely. This is a thing I see a lot. People are in treatment and stuff, and they go, when you get out of here now, you go to meetings and get a sponsor. And they go, okay. And they go to their first meeting, whatever it is, and they think this is AA. And then they pick someone to sponsor. They have no clue. Yeah, we're okay. No clue what that person's supposed to look like. Chapter 7, working with others. Well, you go, I'm not working with anyone, I'm just out of treatment. Study that damn chapter, because it tells you how you should be approached. It tells you how you should be talked to. It tells you what the sponsor's job is and what your job is. And what I want is I want someone who's living this program. I don't want to hear, it's nice you got 20 years, but I don't want to hear what you did 15 years ago. I want to hear what you did today. So when you see someone in a meeting and you like them, go interview them. You don't have to say, oh, you sponsor me? Just say, I really like what you said about your daily living program. Tell me about it. What do you do in the morning? What do you do at night? What is your daily living program? I want to know that. And I'll compare it to the book, and if it's solid with the book, then that's probably a safe bet. I don't want you to take me through your version of the steps. I want the version. That means that's going to be a big book sponsor, right? I don't want your version. And I don't want mine for sure. It's almost killed me several times in sobriety, right? So, all right, we're going to take a break. And if you want to stay and talk about this, stay. And if you don't, leave. Pick up your messes, grab some food, break. Yep.